Alrighty, so welcome back. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk about how to do the base of our coil pot. We're going to learn how to do some of the effects that you might see in some of those examples where we have spirals, we have some pebbles, and we have some different things that can create some of the effects that you see and some of the designs that you see. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by rolling about a 2-foot coil to create the base of my pot. So I'm going to start with some nice fresh clay. Again, in our last video we talked about how to create a perfect coil, and every coil that we use on here has to be perfect, otherwise it won't turn out great. So again, I'm going to start with a nugget. I'm going to get it started, palm to fingertip, full range of motion, side to side, pressing downward. Again, I'm going side to side all the way until I feel it get to a good index finger thickness. You'll see I go to one hand to get a little bit more precision on this. There we go. So a good 2-foot index finger thick coil all the way across. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create the base. Okay. And now when we look at the base of this, we have to determine if we're going to have something that's going to be a little bit more kind of rounded. So if we started with something like this, right, that would be kind of like a bowl shape. Alright, so we would have something a little bit more rounded, so we would need a narrow base and then go wider. We could also do something where we have more, if we look over here, kind of a straight cylindrical form. Okay, so that would start with kind of a base. I would say a good base to start with is something about 3 inches. Okay, so starting with kind of a 3-inch base is going to be something that's definitely going to probably be pretty helpful. Okay, so we'll get rid of some of this so we can see what we're working on. Alright, so I'm going to go with kind of a 3-inch base just to see where we're at on that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to spiral this kind of like a snail. And I'm going to go to about, I think that's a good size. I don't want to go any bigger than that. I'll take it and I'll kind of smooth that in. Okay? Now you might notice that if the clay starts to crack while you're bending it, it's always good to give it a spray as you kind of are twisting it together because you're going to notice some cracks. If you start with really fresh clay, you won't have that issue. So a couple tools I'm going to need. Probably going to be my smoothing tool, my rib tool, a sponge. Should be kind of good. We might not need this, so we'll just start with those two for now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it just a little spray, and I'm going to smooth this together so we get a nice flat pancake. And what I'm using is I'm using the kind of the rounded edge of this, and I'm going to put my finger here, kind of like so. And I'm just going to lightly, I'm not pressing hard, you guys, I'm just lightly pulling this together. Can pick it up and twist it. And again, don't use your fingers for this because if we use our fingers, what's going to happen is you're going to get different indentations, and that's never good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to flip it. You could, if you wanted to, you could leave this as it is, but for safety reasons, just so that nothing breaks, I like to come in and flatten this side out too. So I'm going to pull all this together, kind of like so. And then the next tool I'm going to use is I'm going to use my rib tool, because if you look at this, I got all these nasty marks on it, right, on both sides. So what I'm going to do here, change the lighting, I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually give this just a gentle spray. I'm going to take my metal rib and I'm just going to gently smooth all this out. Flip it over. Same thing. Smooth that out. Now I'll give the sides a spray. Even get my sponge nice and wet. And I'm just going to go around this edge. Look at that. Nice and smooth. All the way around. Flip it over. This I might come in, use my finger and kind of even that side out a little bit. And voila. We have a nice pancake, nice and flat and smooth and ready to go. So now we're going to add our first coil. And when we do this, you'll notice that a couple of these pieces that we see in those examples, they start off, the first two coils are just smoothed in. For you guys, I'm going to have you start with just your first coil. And what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to take our needle tool, and this is where you guys are going to get annoyed, is we're going to rough up. If you have a plastic fork at home, this goes much quicker. So we're going to rough up that bottom half. Now we don't need to do this with every coil, but we need to do it with the first coil because it's going to keep it nice and secure. And nice and locked in place. So then I'll come in, kind of rough this up. Nice and rough. Get it good, crisscross it out, get it all kind of really nice and roughed up, ready to go. Again, that connection like Velcro, we call this slipping and scoring. I got that. So then what I'm going to do, spray both pieces, and now I'm going to rest that coil evenly with the outside edge here. Okay, so if you look at this, I'm resting it even so that this, the bottom, and this coil line up. We don't want it too far in, and we don't want it too far out where it overhangs. We want it nice and even, so I look straight down at it. And the biggest thing that I can suggest for you guys is standing up while you're working with coils. It helps you look at how round things are and how symmetrical things are. So I get that to where it kind of lines up. And then I take my needle tool and I'll come in and kind of cut this on an angle, kind of like so that I get a nice, what we call mitered cut. Put that there like so. And now I'm going to show you how to blend this all together so that it's all one even piece. Okay, so what I do is I come in with this, or you could use your finger for this part. I support from one side and I gently press down. Okay, now when I press down, okay, I don't want to take too much clay. So for instance, I don't want to do this, because now my wall is too thin here. We want to maintain about a pinky's width on this spot so we can add our next coil to it. So what I do is I go and I just smooth. Again, I support from the outside so that that coil doesn't push out. Can smooth these two coils together. And I got that nice and connected. On the outside here, what I like to do is I like to take my rib tool and go around. You can even take your thumb and combine that clay together. Okay. So So I would go all the way around and I would smooth all that out. And now I have a nice wall. I have a nice barrier that I can go through and work with and get that nice and clean. So how do we create some of those effects that you see with the coils, some of those patterns? Well, we did one of them to start, and that was the spiral method. Okay. So the other way that we could create something is obviously if we take a coil or we take some fresh clay. Okay, I'll push this down really hard. I'm just kind of getting it nice and good. If you make these a little bit thinner, so I'm going to show you here. It's a cool little technique that a lot of people love and like to use. So I'm going to make 2 thin coils. So obviously we could do our technique where we spiral. And what we could do is we could take some of these spirals and stack them together to create a wall full of spirals. So that would kind of look like this. It would go all the way kind of around. The other thing that we could do, which is really cool, is if you go a little thinner with a coil here, I cut this in half, and let me make this a little brighter for you guys. I cut this in half. I can actually take this. Now you would maybe want to make one longer. I would take this, I'd smooth it together on one side. And then what I'll do is take it and I'll twist it and you can create kind of this braid effect. In the clay. So obviously I would need to tighten this up a bit. Could keep rolling it, keep tightening it, and you'll get a nice looking kind of braid effect. A little bit more challenging, but this could definitely be something that also goes in and rests along the inside of that wall to create a nice unique shape. A little bit thicker and a little bit heavier. A lot of people will use this method for the top. So they'll finish it off and do that for the top, which will look kind of nice. Okay. The other thing that we can do, obviously we have our spirals. If I make another coil here, I could do kind of a more rectangular spiral where I fold half, kind of like that. Pinch, half, kind of pinch that. Kind of make that nice and flat looking, kind of like so. So I could go more rectangular coils, obviously, and cut off the excess there, the excess there. The other thing I could do is I could obviously make little pebbles, which I could use to fill in various locations. So we have pebbles, we have swirls, we have rectangular swirls, we have braids, okay? We have tons of different things. You can weave coils in between spots. The one thing that I would recommend is just trying different things and seeing how it goes, seeing what kind of works. Try to create a pattern. Maybe do 2 rows of single coils, then a row of swirls. Okay, the swirls you like to fill in various spots with little balls of clay because there'll be some gaps. But look at some examples and see what you get, see what you can come up with, see what looks kind of interesting, and go from there. So this lesson again talked about how to get our base put together, how to get that first coil put on, and how to create some of the awesome effects. So hopefully you guys have fun with this and enjoy it. We'll be checking in daily, seeing how it's going. Other than that, again, good luck, have fun, and I can't wait to see what you come up with.